This week, the Biden-Harris administration released the first national strategy to combat Islamophobia and anti-Arab hate. The White House says the strategy has 4 priorities: increase awareness of hatred against Muslims and Arabs and broaden recognition of these communities' heritages, improve safety and security for Muslims and Arabs, tackle discrimination against Muslims and Arabs and appropriately accommodate their religious practices, and continue to build cross-community solidarity and collective action to counter hate. Now, the Council on American Islamic Relations says it's too little too late, and the strategy, quote, fails to promise any changes to federal programs that perpetuate anti-Muslim discrimination on a massive scale. Cair's National Deputy Director, Edward Ahmed Mitchell, is here with us. Good to have you back.
Yes.
I want to talk about those federal programs in just a moment, but I understand that Cair's count of anti-Muslim incidents over 2023 was above 8,000, the highest number in the nearly 30 years that you've been keeping count.
We do not know if Cair received over 8,000 complaints in 2023. The best evidence we have for this claim is Cair's 2023 report, Fatal: The Resurgence of Anti-Muslim Hate. However, a reading of this report shows that most of Cair's report consists of people getting in trouble for supporting Hamas at school or work. Most of Cair's complaints were not good enough to be included in their report, so Cair included things from previous years. Some of the things in Cair's report are ridiculous.
Michigan, in April, a female Muslim student was reportedly rejected from an internship interview after declining to shake hands with the CEO of PGF Technology Group, Inc., due to her religious beliefs. The student had reportedly refused to shake hands with the CEO because of her sincerely held religious beliefs.
But none of the things in Cair's report are connected to anything beyond themselves. They are all isolated incidents where people have been arrested, charged, and imprisoned, and none of them were brought about by Israeli violence. Even the brutal murder of Wadia al-Fayyoumi was done in a hysterical panic reaction to the shocking Hamas violence of October 7th, something Cair would prefer not to talk about.
So what does this mean now?
So first, anti-Muslim bigotry and the interconnected problem of anti-Arab racism are out of control. It's always been a problem in America for decades, but the past year, it's exploded.
Well, not really. According to the FBI, Muslims have never entered into the top 5 recipients of hate crimes in the U.S. And according to the most recent data from the FBI, there were 24 hate crimes against Muslims in 2023, ranking them in 9th place, as opposed to, say, Jews in America, who had encountered 265 instances of hate. In fact, lesbians received more hate than Muslims.
We've seen horrific hate crimes, employment discrimination, attacks on college students. It's very bad out there. And so normally we would celebrate a White House strategy to combat Islamophobia. But the problem is they've released it with a month left, so it can't have any real impact. It doesn't address government-driven Islamophobia like the watch list, and it doesn't address the elephant in the room, which is Gaza and the impact that's having on Islamophobia. So there are positive things in the strategy, but it's too little too late.
Too little too late? Cair got fired from the anti-Islamophobia strategy when the leader of Cair said October 7th made him happy.
Yeah, Rob, Jewish advocacy groups, the Anti-Defamation League, and the White House are all condemning comments made by Cair Executive Director Nihad Awad. The Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, Nihad Awad, is on the defense today. He said in part,
"Yes, I was happy to see people breaking the siege and throwing down the shackles of their own land and walk free into their lands that they were not allowed to walk in."
The time for Cair's input has passed, with them being too much, too often, and too extreme. Victor Blackwell never brought up this statement by Cair's leader. Instead, he let Mitchell say that somebody else failed, not him or his organization.
Talk to me more about these federal programs that you say perpetuate anti-Muslim hate.
Yeah, so the watch list, for example, this is a program set up by the FBI during the Bush administration, and it's a list of Muslims, essentially, over 2 million names. Most of them are Muslim names, many of them Americans, and you get put on this list if the FBI thinks there's something suspicious about you. And you're not told that you're on the list, and this can have impact on your ability to open a bank account, to travel, to get a job, because the list is distributed across the country. And so I'll give you one example. We had an American Muslim who was an Army veteran who would get pulled over all the time by the police in Oklahoma and didn't know why. And they'd pull him over at gunpoint and for no reason, and eventually found out he was on the watch list. So we've had to sue the Biden administration to stop misusing this list, and they fought us. We went all the way to the Supreme Court, and we won a 9-0 verdict earlier this year.
Mitchell said Cair defended an Army veteran before the Supreme Court and received a 9-0 victory. This is a reference to Sadiq Long, an Air Force veteran.
You decided to try again to buy a ticket to come home to visit your mother. What prompted you to give it another go?
Well, under the direction of Cair, that needed to be done so that they could, I guess, get it out in the media that I was still trying. And of course, I still needed to.
His case, Sadiq Long versus David Pekoski, was heard before the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which ruled that Long's challenges to his status on the no-fly list were moot. Sadiq Long has been removed from the no-fly list but remains on the broader federal terrorism watch list. Mitchell may be confusing Sadiq Long with Jonas Fikre versus FBI. Cair did not win Fikre's case in the Supreme Court. What they did was represent Fikre when the FBI's motion to dismiss him was voted down 9-0. That means Fikre's case is still unresolved.
But the bottom line is President Biden dropped the ball here. He should have done this earlier. He should have put more teeth behind the strategy, and he should have addressed the root cause of the increase in Islamophobia, which is the war on Gaza.
This is part of a diligent campaign to push the atrocities of October 7th out of our minds and replace that with the narrative that Palestinians are hapless victims. These so-called Palestinians have been outrageously confrontational, obnoxious, violent, and are in no small measure responsible for their unpopularity. This is a good example of the type of broadcast that features Cair. TV stations refuse to do journalism of the group and instead allow them to pass out self-promoting misinformation and attack people and things.
We went all the way to the Supreme Court and we won